when you have a subclass that's inherited from a superclass, a lot of times you're going to want to use the same method name in that subclass that's used in the superclass, but with a little bit different definition. And you can do that using a concept called overriding. And in this lesson, we're going to demonstrate how that works. So let's begin by writing a method in our employee class to display information about an employee. So we're going to call this display info. And it's going to display the name and the salary. I left out the actual data itself. There we go. And a new line, so it'll drop down to the next line. And that's it. So that's the display info method. Let's save that. Now, just to make sure we don't forget, let's go ahead and compile it. Clear my screen real quick. Now let's open the manager class. And let's talk about how to implement that same method. First of all, let me spell out the term here. Overriding a method just means redefining the method using the same name, but with a little bit different, or a lot different, just depends on the situation, body for the method itself. But overriding allows us to use the same name for a method in a superclass in a subclass with a different definition. So again, we'll write public string display info. And then what we want to do is we want to call the superclasses display info because we've already defined that. The display info method for a manager is going to return the same information as for an employee, including the department, which is not included in the employee class. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a string variable. We'll call it info. And then we're going to call the display info from the superclass employee. So to do that, kind of like with a subclass constructor call, we call super with a period and then the name of the method, display info. So this will return the data that the employee version of display info returns, which is the name and the salary. And then we're going to add that information with the department to give us all the information about a manager. So let me close it off and then let me recap what we've done. We want to return the display info data that's called in the superclass. So to do that, we call super.displayInfo. That calls that method from the superclass, gets the name and the salary, stores it in this string, and then we return this string concatenated with the information about the department, which is specific just for a manager. So let's save the file, compile it. Now let's test it with a program. So here I've already started a Chap 13 Part 2 program. So we're going to write employee E1 equals new employee Smith 30,000. And then we're going to write manager M1 equals new manager Brown 50,000. And then we'll call those methods systemout.println E1 display info, and then systemout.println M1 display info, like so. So we'll save the file. Let's clear the screen, compile it, chap 13 part 2.java. Oh, we left out the department for the manager. All right, let's fix that real quick. We'll say IT. Save it. Now let's try again. Clear the screen, then Java, chap 13 part 2. All right, so see how that works. For the employee object, E1, it calls display imp info with the name and the salary. For a manager object, M1, it first calls display imp info for the superclass, then adds the part that we need. Let's bring manager up so we can see it. The department piece to get the department for the manager. So by doing this, again, we are saving ourselves the chance of making a mistake by not having to repeat information. We already know that display imp info works for an employee, so why not use it rather than have to retype all the details for name and salary and only have to do that for department? That's what makes overriding such a useful method in object-oriented programming. So, to conclude, overriding is the ability to redefine a superclass's method in a subclass so that it uses some of the information from the superclass, plus it adds its own information from the subclass that's necessary to complete the method.